Hi, guys. Welcome to the Yes and No podcast. I'm your host, Matt, and with my good friend that is also a host.
Yeah, that's me, Arda.
Hey, what's up, man?
As always.
As always.
As always, we are here.
Yeah.
How, and forever and ever? Are we going to do this? How long?
Forever.
Forever and ever? Okay.
Until we die.
You said it. There's no going back from that.
Okay. It feels like a relationship.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty good.
You good?
The weather is nice.
Weather is getting hotter here. So I have mixed feelings about that.
Yeah, me too.
All right, what are we talking about today?
Relationships.
What?
Relationships.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I think most of our conversations are actually around that. No, day to day, we talk about
day to day.
Talk about a lot about relationships.
We do talk about.
And I think you had a lot of ups and downs. I had a lot of ups and downs. And I think our friendship, we had good support, I would say. I mean, kind of like a therapy, I guess. You know, like when I did therapy for a short time, you did it for a lot longer. But that's a good part that I feel like a lot of people talk about that shit, right? I mean, it's a big part of the social understanding.
Yes, it is. It is definitely a way to understand yourself too, through the eyes of someone else, meaning relationship as can define it in general, definitely influence who we are as a person. So, yeah.
But I always had a hard time with relationships, I think. It was, since there are a lot of social requirements, it was always hard for me to intuitively understand, what is this person telling me right now? What's going on?
What is this person?
I mean, from the men's perspective too, the people I talk with, man or woman, they see it in a certain way, which I didn't. I didn't quite understand the social cues. I couldn't read them properly. So it was always hard for me.
What do you mean, being with someone?
I mean, even before being with someone, flirting, asking someone out, kind of understanding what that person wants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am a pretty open person. I'm pretty literate most of the times. So, when people imply things with the body language or verbally, I don't get it most of the times. You are really good at it, I think.
I don't think I am, actually.
You don't think so? But I mean,
no.
Better than me at least.
I think I have good pattern recognition, so that's why I can analyze
have good
things.
Pattern recognition too, but
come on,
when it comes to mimics and I don't get what that fucking means.
But anyway, so let's start with that. Actually, I think when we talk about a relationship, most of the time it's about multiple aspects about it. I think it's the dynamics between two people, but it's also start even with the aspiration of getting into a relationship, which is dating. And we have definitely different takes on it, coming from different backgrounds and different culture. I think it would be interesting to mention that.
Yeah, I mean, recently my perspective changed a little bit. I feel like I have a more clear understanding what I want. But if I go to 15, 20 years back, when I was younger and trying to date with people, I think I didn't really know what I wanted. It was more just being attracted from a girl, liking that girl, and want to be with that girl. And there is this mythos around from the stories, you fall in love, you have a family, you have a kid, and then you die together or something.
That goes back to our previous episode, by the way, guys, with Julia. Real interesting one.
I don't know. The first part, I guess in Turkey, it is not as complicated as US. I feel like it's influenced from the American culture, meaning there's a dating culture. If you meet with someone, like there are roles that man needs to do. You go, you ask her out, and you guys go out, and the first date, the second date. But it's not as complicated. If you go to the first date, I think people would assume that they are together. Almost everybody is monogamous. So once we are out, from now on, we are going to try to know each other and, we are together. But maybe lately...
You mean, wait. You mean like from the first date, you say?
Yeah, I mean, if someone agreed to go out for a date, that's implied that, we are going to be together. But I think it's changed in Turkey a little bit. It's more like a trial process, an interview before you are exclusive. But it's more of an American idea, I feel like. Before you get exclusive, there are like these steps that you need to take, and then, okay, you are hired. So I don't think even Americans are aware of this dating culture that's like so embedded into their culture. That's like something, I think, become a global thing maybe at this point, but I think it's way different than how it was. What do you think?
I don't know. It feels like it hasn't been always there too at the same time. I think social media and those dating apps changed the game. But for me, yeah, as you say, like it's definitely global, coming from France. Like,
but do you think it was like that before internet?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Because think about like Indian culture, for example. Like I feel like Turkish culture was like that too. Your parents kind of choose the people, or you go to these certain places and you kind of check each other. You tell your parents, they tell each other, and then, they set you up. I'm giving you the oldest version.
Yeah.
Not in France.
No, I don't feel like it was that, actually. It's so interesting because I know in different cultures it's still happening, actually. But in France, I don't recall really that type of...
Even historically, if you go way back.
Maybe in Middle Age, don't get me wrong. Like you wanted to have like the
Dark Ages.
The Dark Ages, yeah. Maybe you wanted to have, someone that is... You wanted to marry someone to get more money or some shit like that. But it feels, it's result past for so many centuries almost, I would say.
Yeah. But what do you think about the new American dating culture?
All right, I'm going to be blunt with it. I think it sucks, dude. I mean, that's one of the conversations that we have sometimes. And this is definitely, regarding that is, for me, it's so interesting as France and Europe in general feel so connected to the Western countries with themselves and in terms of culture with the US. But what appeared so many times in our conversation, it feels like sometimes Turkey, it's more close culturally in the way you interact with the US than we are actually doing in Europe and in France, especially with the US. Like for me, dating culture really started like maybe 12 years ago in France. Really?
Okay.
In that sense, the same way maybe, we can envision that in the US. And if you add like dating apps, maybe it's like 10 years, 11 years ago. That's it.
Yeah.
So
I would say maybe like
close.
Beginning of 2000s for Turkey.
Yeah. For us, it's like 2010, starting in 2010.
Yeah.
And then like you need to wait like maybe 2-3 years and then it's up and it goes a little bit. And I think it's really going on since before the pandemic, 2019, 2020. This is where, like that dating culture really appeared and it's like more embedded in society nowadays. But But I don't know. For me, before, maybe I'm old school, but that was never the case. Like the way we interact with people in France, and we mentioned it, at the cafe, we mentioned in previous episodes too, is like, you're seeing someone, you go talk to that person, and then you exchange numbers and then you text each other's and that's it. But it doesn't feel like, oh, I need to do a first date. I need to ask that person to do that. And then we'll need to meet and then we'll need to meet again. And then there's like the one time, two times, three times. And then maybe we can have sex. And then after a couple of ones, then we're in a relationship. Like it feels so distant in terms of, even in terms of gender equality. I don't want to go straight up to that point, but for me, it feels like you're separating men and women, and there's expectation from women's side, there is expectation for men's too, and then you need to follow those rules in order to connect with the person. And just connecting, as you were saying like it feels like an interview. But in France, the way it was and the way I felt it personally, and the friends that I had around me perceived too, was not that clear, rules to follow. It feels like if there's a feeling, if there's something, and you move forward. And then if it fails, okay, it failed and it's fine. And you can still, do something else and then meet with another person and not saying the game continue, but the reality and the way you interact with other people still, don't change. You don't have to go through steps. You don't have to go through rules in order to appreciate someone, because at the end of the day, getting into a date or a relationship is about appreciating someone. And
yeah, I mean,
sharing
when you
that
said,
with that person.
that like there are like men and women has still roles even this day, back then, there were still those roles available, maybe different, right? I mean, today we still have those expectations, but it's more complicated for me. Also, the question is, what do we want? What's the goal, right? When we look at those social expectations, let's say, I feel like it was way different back then. Like if you go, before this dating culture with the internet and everything, like right now, I don't know if people want to end up with someone. Like I want to find a partner and I want to spend my life together with that person. Instead, it feels like I'm young. I have so many options. Like they are going out there, meeting with people and trying to understand themselves.
What would be interesting is to know if the expectation changed because the dating culture, became so embedded in our society and because of maybe dating apps, or is it like a normal change from who we are as people and how we communicate with others and what we want from others? Is it like embedded in society, or is it like changed by the culture based on, I don't know, movies, culture?
I mean, you said it. You said like
apps.
Internet, right? Like internet, online dating. I think when you present different ways, new ways to people want to try it. And I think they try and try and try. And at some point, people will be like, fuck it. Okay, these things doesn't work. I don't know, like online dating, for example.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people don't find it interesting anymore. They're still doing it, but I don't think it was what it promised at the beginning,
Which was
like, you're going to download this app, you're going to find someone because we are putting your data, who you are, and then you're going to match with this person somewhere in the world or somewhere, and then you guys are going to be happy, and then you're going to delete the app. Like that was actually a commercial thing there was an app that was using that. This app is for deleting.
Obviously, I downloaded it like everybody else. I tried it, but I never worked for me. Like I never understood that process. And as you were saying, those steps that you need to follow, because like even in dating, as we're saying there's like the first date and then the second date and then the third date, and then you see if you're compatible. But even like through dating apps, like there's those steps, and you need to like that person needs to like you, and you need to engage with that person, you need to say something, and you need to be interesting. And I think we mentioned it before, but it feels so not natural. Like it feels you're creating a persona in order to connect with someone virtually, in order to connect with that person, physically, in order to connect with that person and see if you're compatible, in order to connect with that person to maybe be in a relationship. Oh my God. Oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Like it's too much. Like I think out of every dating apps that I used, I think I chatted with one person really. Like I had like a conversation and I started adding that person on Instagram, and then sometimes we're texting each other saying like, oh, this is cool what you shared, and I like the meme you put out there, and things like that. I was done. That's it.
Do you remember?
That never went past that point either. Like I never met that person, I never dated that person, I never fucked that person, and I never been in a relationship with that person. So
do you remember what kind of girl's algorithm was sending you, and what and my algorithm? Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. I don't remember. Go ahead.
I think around that time I decided to quit online dating.
Okay, tell the story then.
I was like, fuck this shit. No, I mean, I was assuming that I'm getting a versatile, like different people depending on, but it was just giving me a certain look and a certain personality that was not matching me at all. And then what you were getting was models, basically.
Yeah,
like
I know.
Literally beautiful looking girls. And then I was like, what is going on? Why?
Yeah, I don't know. And I never understood either. But I'm not saying that he was more successful or, that changed anything. But it's still like, it's still interesting the way algorithm, is working for sure. I mean, we don't have to talk about it because I think it's a whole conversation in itself, how it is fucked up and how you need to pay to try to meet some people. For me, it's fucking crazy. But for me, to go back to this idea even of online dating or dating, it's so unnatural. I just want to go back to mention that because like it feels, especially for me as a person and how it was in my dating life, which was basically I've been in a relationship most of my life, adulthood. And the concept of it, which is definitely, we can go back to our second episode about authenticity. Dating is for me a way to not be real at all. Like people are creating those persona, they're creating themselves kind of a story in order to be interesting for the person in front of them, and that person on the other side, they're gonna do the same. And so you already start with the base that it's not real. You're not like I showed you a video earlier, which was like those two people, and they were saying something on a date, and then there's in parentheses they were saying like the real thing, like I like every music except country. I like every music too. I hate Drake, and that type of things, and it takes out everything from the context. Because to go back to what you're saying, there's a question about goal at the end of the day. Why are we dating? Because we're alone? Is it because we're lonely? Is it because we want to get a relationship? Because we are idealizing the idea of a relationship?
Are we looking for a status?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. And that's the thing. For me, maybe, I'm too romantic. But I think it's the question and the idea of love that is more important. And you cannot search for love, you find love, That's
like
the
for
expression.
me, it's I think similar, but I would say like more than anything, friendship. And I do agree with you that it should be authentic, honest. I cannot mask. I really have difficult time to fake it until you make it kind of a situation.
Like, I don't know. For me, that's the main idea. It's just you need to stumble into loving someone. And in order to love someone, you need to appreciate someone. In order to appreciate someone, you need to meet that person. And if you create those instances, then you're already starting in the wrong way. Like meeting someone, should have no expectation. When we became friends, I didn't know you, right? And we met because we were on a project together. And then there was like this thing going on between us. And then we went to get a drink after work. And then we started to discuss about our life. And everything was honest. There is no expectation about our relationship, which is our friendship. All right. Yeah. But I think dating and to try to get in love is the same process. Like you cannot cheat on that. Like it needs to go through those steps naturally, organically. And if it's not, then you gonna create expectation. You expect that person to be like that on the opposite side. And that person is gonna expect you to be a certain way or this or that. And the way everything is sold is you'll need to find the one. Then that means you need to find it. You need to search for it. And that's completely bullshit. It doesn't exist. And through those steps, it's not because like you were saying, like, I'm looking for what is the...
I'm looking for a guy in finance. Just fund. 6'5", blue eyes. Yeah, that's so fun. I love that.
Same. It's fucked up. Like, it's not because you're putting those criteria, and then you're having those expectations that if you find that, you'll be happy and then you'll be in love or everything is going to be okay. It just needs to go through those steps, which is like you meet someone and then naturally, you engage and then naturally something happens and then naturally maybe you need to be friends first and then, it goes to something better. But you need to understand and meet that person. And then what I'm saying meet is not like face to face. I'm talking about obviously, psychologically too, in terms of where they're coming from, their background, their culture, what they want in life. And for that, you need to be real and not, do those fucking bullshit steps.
I think people also see it as a partnership now because of that dating culture. I mean, especially the dating culture. As I mentioned before, it's like an interview, right? Like you're looking for someone you're going to share your life, but I'm going to work with this person. I'm going to, change my life. I'm going to build things. So we need to be able to work together. So that's why at the beginning, it's more like, at least to me, it feels like an interview. Like you're asking these questions. What's your intentions? What are your expectations? And I don't know. You can easily fake that. You can easily make that up.
But I
can't, but
what is the goal? Is to live with that person your whole life?
I don't know. Maybe some people it's raising a kid or maybe a little bit of financial things going on that like I want to have financial stability. So I want someone in my life that has certain goals and ambitions as I do. I don't think it that way, but I can see some people think that way,
But like that's the thing. I know people that are like that.
Mm-hmm.
And every time that they were putting those expectations,
doesn't work.
It failed.
Yeah, I don't know.
Always. Always. Because like, to be honest, we need to be clear. There's not going to be just one love in your life. There's not going to be one person in your life. And throughout your entire life, since you were born until you die, you're going to meet other people. There's going to be interesting people. There are going to be people you have better connection with. There's people at one point in your life that are going to be there for you for something really specific. And then they're going to disappear. And maybe sometimes they're going to go back. And maybe sometimes you're going to have someone very long. And the expectation of, I need to find one person and I want to do that with that person. And then it's going to stay there until I die is nonsense. And I think we all know about it. So what is the point then? right from the beginning to create those expectations and do those steps in order to try to be matching someone that is fitting you the best. But the reality is like, you're going to feed someone else. That's if not that person. And then if it's not that other person, you're going to feed another one and then another one, or maybe not. And it's like that. It's life. Personally, to talk about myself, I've been in like 5 relationships.
5 relationships, probably, yeah. And all of them are pretty long, like 6 years, 5 years, 7 years. I don't know, but I've never been in a relationship that long. Like most of my relationships, like there was a point I had to recognize that I might be polyamorous to a degree, because I had somewhat monogamous relationships and open relationships. I never had much of an issue being open, but it also depends on the other person too. Yet it's always harder to communicate. So normally, naturally it starts as mono. But I met with so many different people doing poly, and that's an interesting concept too. Yet I wouldn't recommend anybody who doesn't feel naturally that way. But yeah, I know you are very, passionate in the relationship. Like you keep it as much as, how should I say it? You always try ways how you can make it work, and you committed to that person. I don't know, like not necessarily saying this as a monogamous or a polyamorous person, but I'm simply saying it like you had long relationships that you kept going,
Yeah, I mean, also to be honest, I never worked really on those that much either. Because it feels for some people like you need to work into that relationship in order to make that relationship work. Actually, no. For me, it always felt natural. And every time that I was with someone, and I think my first real relationship was like 7 years. And I don't know, I never had any expectation of anything with that person. And I went out from high school to university, and we had a dog together, and we lived together, and then life changed, and then we broke up. She moved somewhere else, I moved somewhere else, and we never been in contact since. But I don't know, when I was in that relationship, I never asked myself, oh, I want that person to be like this or like that, and that person should talk to me like this or like that, and then I want us to have a castle when we're gonna be old. No, it's like just live with a fucking person that you appreciate, and then that appreciation is love, and then since you have love with that person, you just keep going until life changes. And that's basically how all my long relationships were always like that. It's never been like this idea of I need to learn more about that person and see the intention. Is it real, not real? Putting in question everything that we were doing, or trying to project what I wanted, or expect something really specific. After a couple of years, I want to do this, or I want to move there. No. And every time that I was not putting those rules, every time that went smoothly, and it was really great. Sure, sometimes you can argue about something. I'm not saying that never happened. Depends which relationship, actually. And then you start to communicate, and then you can maybe fix that. But we have such a different vision, you and me, actually, regarding that. Is like, I'm never considered myself monogamous or polyamor or anything. It's just like, for me, being in a relationship with someone is sharing something really strong with that person. I want to make that person learn things. I want to show that person stuff, and I want that person to show me stuff and make me learn new things. And it's like this symbiotic idea of a friendship. Maybe it's codependency. I said symbiotic. Yeah.
I mean, kind of codependency.
It's definitely, but it's not, no, because codependency, I think there's like these things that you absolutely need that person for. but that's not the vision that I have. Like I never try to find that in that sense. I'm trying to have the person that is basically you and me, like the friendship on the level that it's over that. And maybe there's romance and then there's love on top of it. So it's like I'm not trying to find someone like that. It's maybe I was lucky, but every time that happened, it was like that. So it's just like this idea of another person with you that complete each other or not, that are the same or not. And then there's that friendship that is so strong. It's even over the friendship. But I don't consider myself as a monogamist because that's the idea of society that, was embedded in our brain, being like, oh, you need to be monogamist, and that's what it is. But it's the way for me. It's just like I'm not looking for. No, I know, but I'm not looking for a wife. I'm not looking for a partner. I'm not looking for a girlfriend. I'm not looking for someone. First of all, I'm just meeting someone, and there's that match, and through that match, I have met someone that I'm really, 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 really close to, and if that stops in 10 years, cool. If our relationship evolve, cool. If we break up and we meet again, cool. There's no expectation about that either. And I like the difference there is between that and the idea of just being monogamist is I don't care about the other aspect of relationships. I don't differentiate sex, for example, and love, which is something that we talked a lot together. And for that, this is why I'm not putting myself as a monogamist. I am monogamist, obviously, but I'm not putting myself.
There's a clear definition there.
I know. But you know what I'm saying? But it's not something like that is based on the culture, because like I'm seeing a lot of friends that are single and they want to find the one. They want to get married. They want a relationship. I don't want a relationship. I don't want to get married particularly. I don't want to find the one. I'm meeting someone. That makes sense? I'm meeting someone that I'm sharing a part of my life with at one point. That's it.
You are polyamory. Sorry, monoamory.
Monoamory, that's what it is, yeah. I'm not monogamist, I'm monoamory. Yeah.
Because monogamy, I don't know if you're pointing that out, but socially you're expected to be married and
yeah. That's in that sense I'm saying.
Because polygamy and polyamory is also differs from that. But I mean, at the end of the day, you are probably not comfortable being open with your partner that romantically and sexually they can see other people.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like for me, this is I'm not like separating those two.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing too, because I think that's the fundamental aspect of being able to do it or not. If you are seeing sex and romantic connection as emotional and intelligence connection, like sapiosexuality, demisexuality. So those, when you're like that and when you're with someone, I get it. If that person is with someone else, you're gonna lose some emotional and some connection. But some people don't have that. The problem is when you're in polyamory. I think it's like the connection, like the openness, and because you need to be more attentive to other person's emotions. You need to constantly check in with them, and at the end of the day, you don't want to hurt them. You don't want them to feel anxious or jealous or uncomfortable all the time. And that's the hard part. And I think after some time, for some people, maybe sexuality changes its form too. I feel like the older people get and they're together for like years, they sometimes open their relationship, which is like crazy to me. I mean, if you didn't experience that or you don't, I don't know. It's like, it feels harder to me after spending 5-6 years. Maybe not.
It's a question about desiring the other person too that you're with, and like the way maybe you're merging with that person in terms of
merging.
Yeah, exactly. Both way. Like in terms of your personality, it becomes almost one, and then your desire, or maybe both of you guys are having the same desire, and that's why that desire changes, because there's you want something new, or you want to you're evolving in some way. But since you're both of you at the same time, you're evolving too. Sometimes you're sharing those desires together. And this is why I don't think it's right from the beginning that those desires were already there since the beginning. I think it's just evolving because the dynamism in terms of what people want, maybe sexually or something like that, they evolve through years and then, that changed together.
I mean, polyamory is, I feel like, in terms of being a spectrum compared to monogamy, like it's so many different variations that two people can set for each other. So it's really hard to talk for everybody. But I think generally the main thing is being communicative and checking with other person's feelings. That's sometimes the hard part. But going back to being monogamous, I guess a lot of people feel safer there too. I guess once you have one person and you both, agreed that, your thing is mine, mine is yours, we're just going to do it with each other.
Mm-hmm.
That gives maybe some sense of security. So that makes sense too.
Yeah, but it's definitely more complicated than that in terms
for sure,
of the dynamics, the psychology of different people, and how they communicate between each others as partners. But just to go back and just clarify something, you mentioned, demisexual. There is something that I need to mention about that too. Is like I discovered that I am demisexual too. So the way I'm envisioning the relationship, and this is why I think it's important to say it, is definitely not. And this is why maybe I was trying to, say, oh, I'm not really monogamous, but I'm not like polyamor either. It's like I'm not seeing and I'm not attracted by people in the same way that other people in general. Meaning like I don't connect with some of my friends that I say, are single or in relationship, and the way they process their relationship with the person. Like for me, in order to be attracted by someone, even sexually, it needs to go through knowing a person first, and really first. Like if I'm just seeing someone that is hot, beautiful, and then we mentioned it through maybe dating apps, like that's not turning me on. I need a deep connection with the person in order to have this sexual desire too. And maybe because of that, I'm not interesting into trying to find something or trying to find someone.
I get it. But at the same time, a lot of people, I think, have this perspective on men are generally like that. They are not demisexual or sapiosexual. They can just fuck whatever. But they don't, because they need some kind of security in the relationship and control, but then they cheat. Which, yeah, but women cheat too, I guess. I wouldn't recommend anybody to be like, oh, be polyamorous is better than being mono. I think it really depends. It's a person-to-person based thing.
Yeah, and it's a question also about how you are already with the person. Because it feels like it's so easy to be like, oh, I want to be with the person, and then you go on an app, and then you booty call that person, you fuck that person, and you're done. But then creating something that is more connected to who you are in terms of what you envision. And I'm not saying the expectation that you're putting, but creating a real connection with someone and then be open, as you were saying, maybe as polyamor, you need steps too through the relationship that you're building with someone. So maybe you're not monogamous straight from the beginning, but you need to have that person need to acknowledge who you are, and you need to respect who you are. And then you on the other side, you need to respect that person too. And there's steps that are made at that point to build good foundation. And you need foundation, in that type of relationships. And
100%.
And just to go right back to, when we were saying about dating culture and dating apps, those don't build that. It's just
oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're not building anything in those steps at all. You're just trying to connect and see if you're a good match. That's it. That's the whole point. But I think when you're trying to explain to me polyamory is the same. Like, sure, but it's not just a match. It's you need to be confident in the person that you have in front of you, and that person needs to give their confidence to you too. And then there's to be reciprocation in between you guys, and then like you need to have this strong bond between those two in order to be who you are really. So it's not even like, are we matching, or we fit to be together or not? Like, it needs to already to be like super deep in terms of your connection and your conversation and what you're building with that person right from not the beginning, but you need to establish that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people sees polyamory and people practicing that as like, oh, these people want to just fuck other people, And there's this misconception, I think, about being polyamory, and that's why people don't really openly talk about it. I feel like a lot of them hiding it. But if you go into that community, the first thing they're going to say is like how communication is important and being honest and truthful to your partner is important. Like, they're constantly going to talk about that and point that out if you want to have a polyamorous relationship. There are some polyamorous relationships that establishes that you have a primary partner and you have a secondary partner, and you prioritize your primary partner. If they come and say like, well, you're seeing this person, but I'm not comfortable with that, you talk about it, and you need to respect, and maybe you need to break things up with those people, like you don't, and it really depends. But I think there are these rules and foundations, as you mentioned, that you need to lay down in polyamory. There is something called, for example, monopoly. Do you know that? Monopoly is like one of the partners is
I know a game,
monogamous, the other one is polyamorous. So one person is like, I'm not going to go out and look for someone, but if you want to go out there, I'm comfortable with it. Which is, for a lot of people, it feels unfair. And I think that's really interesting. Every time I mention this, a lot of people feel it's like, how that's even a thing, And I get it, but I think it taps into that unfairness, and things need to be fair in the relationship kind of a thing. But I guess my point is it really varies in polyamorous circles, how you set those foundations. And I can confidently say that they're going to point out, you need to communicate, you need to be honest and, authentic. Yeah.
But that's what I'm going to say. I think it goes to every type of relationships.
Yeah, 100%. Like
and that's the thing, and
like that too, or monoamory.
And that's the and I think that's the trick where people are lying to themselves. Is as you were mentioning, polyamory is like, it's so grounded, it's so specific that you need to have this conversation. You need to be authentic. You need to be real with the person. You need to have this strong connection, and you need to have a lot of communication in order to set that up in some way. That it feels on the other side, like maybe as monogamist in general, that it feels so entitled. I want to fuck you. I don't want you to fuck other people. I want you to be with me, and that's it. And we're cool, and that's it. Good. So do you want to go grab something for dinner? Okay, cool. And I want to watch TV. Okay, great. And then I don't know, through the relationship, problems arise, and then you understand that a person is not doing the dishes as you're doing, some shit like that. And then since there is no communication on the basis of your foundation of your relationship, and it's fucked up. And then you go back.
It can get really toxic real quick.
Yeah, exactly. You can become toxic, and then you just fucking break up, and then you start again, and you follow fucking bullshit steps, and then you forgot to be authentic through all of that. And then you are in that relationship where you feel entitled to, and then you commit the same bullshit and same patterns again and again and again. And it's not a podcast episode about, communication and how it is important to be honest with your partners and set up rules or, boundaries and need to express yourself better. But I think this is the whole idea about like authenticity, and especially in terms of relationship, meaning like the reality is you're interacting with another human being. All right.
Yeah.
And since you're human, you have flaws. And since I'm human, I have flaws too. And it's a question about what do you want with the person in front of you, but not like the expectation. But if you want something which is basically trying to be yourself inside a relationship or with the person in front of you, and you want to appreciate that person being themselves on the other side, it needs to start with all those points that we're mentioning: communication, boundaries, and then being authentic, listening a lot. And if you don't do that at all, and if you just follow standardized steps, well, you're missing all of that. And through all of that, you're missing love. And if you're missing love and those foundation, it's gonna be shitty. And
Yeah.
and I think for me, this is why my relationship that worked were so long, and I'm still in a relationship for the past 2 years. It's because I had like really easy relationship where I never asked myself, why am I with that person? Why is there something wrong? Maybe they're hiding something or anything. Like one of the longest relationship that I had with that girl that I met at the bar, and I text her because I got her number from her friend, and then we met once, and after one time we kissed, and 3 days later we were kind of together. A month later we went traveling together, and then we stayed 8 years together. And he went like that. Like there's no in between steps. Like it's not like,
Yeah.
oh, we did 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, then we decided to create something and maybe we should get an apartment together and then move in together. No.
Yeah.
Everything was flawless. It was easy, smooth, and I never questioned anything. We never fought. And then it ended because life, COVID, so many things. And maybe we didn't want some stuff together, in terms of she wanted to have kids. I didn't want to have kids. And this is, at one point.
Marriage. Yeah.
Yeah, and all that. So, but in between, there was no setting fucking rules or expectation of everything. And we traveled the world together. We moved in the US together. Then she moved back, and then there was like long distance relationship in between, and there was like this up and downs. But all of that were resolved because, in terms of how people think it's a match, this match was natural. I never expected her to be like a match because of something, or because I was expecting her to be like this or like that, and then it would create the condition for us to be a match. No, it was just, we never thought about any of that. And I think because we never thought about any of that, it went so smoothly, so easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people fall into this. Like, I'm not a traditional person, and I have a thing with dogmatic traditions that if like people live in a way, I'm fine, they can. But if it's not changing, I don't always submit to it. It feels uncomfortable for me. I don't get it. But a lot of people live that way. And I feel like once you lay out the foundations for them, once you set some rules in society, it's easier to predict certain things, or at least there's like this perception of it, or the perspective that, oh, like I know this. And, I think they see it that way and play it that way. And it works for some people. It's more clear in their head. I I know it's not like that for you, but like even if you go back to that, I have Indian friends, and I know many that found a partner through their families, and they're still seeing each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine that for myself. That's the thing, but I respect for what they have and that it's working. And I know like some Muslim cultures had that. I'm pretty sure Turkey had it way back. I don't know how long ago. And it's funny. When I was in Los Angeles, I was maybe the second year. I had this friend who was working at the Grow. You know the Grow. It's a shopping mall, and there is a fountain, and there are like kiosks. She was working at the kiosk, and on Sundays I was seeing this group of young women and men, maybe boys and girls, let's say, going there, and they were Saudi. They were looking Middle Eastern, right?
Yeah, Saudi Arabian. Yeah, I saw those people, and they're staying there like super late at night. Like if you guys were hang out, like I was going to the movies at the Grove at that point, and then I don't know, you come out from the movie theater at midnight, or something like that. They were there. And then every store were closed, everything was closed. And it, for me, was like, what the fuck are they doing here?
Yeah. And then I asked her, like, why are they coming here? Like, is it an event? Is it like a gathering? And it's every Sunday, right? And she said, well, they are checking each other. I'm like, what do you mean they're checking each other? I mean, they are just checking each other, like maybe just go out and be together. I'm like, are they like, is it kind of a dating thing? And she said, no, it's not a dating event or anything like that. They just look at each other. They see if they're like each other and then tell this to their families. And then they talk and then they match and then they become together, like almost my Indian friends, some of them go through, like it's a similar idea. Mm-hmm. And she said, in Turkey, actually in villages, there are like fountains. Mm-hmm. And then the girls go to the fountain and like do cleaning or water, whatever. And the boys go there and check the girls. And she gave me that example. I'm like, you're fucking with me. Like, I thought she's trolling, right? So I go and ask one of the guys there. I'm like, dude, I have a question. Like, I'm just curious. Why every Sunday, I'm seeing group of young, girls and boys come in here. Like, what's going on? And he literally confirmed it. He said, like, Arab seeing Arab, we're checking each other and telling our parents, it's just like a thing. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. It was really unexpected in Los Angeles at Grow.
Yeah, definitely.
I really didn't believe her, but it was funny. But it works. For some people, it works.
But do you think really it works in terms of?
I don't know. Like I don't know the details, but
I think that's the hardest question there. Is like, do you think all of that, all the relationships that we're building, are solely based on society? You see, because you're saying about polyamory or something. I said about demisexual for myself, and it feels like those are separated from the shackles of society. All right, but like those that we're mentioning, those guys from Saudi Arabia and maybe India, the way they process things. That means like they don't envision partnership in the same way either, but they feel happy. So you know what I'm saying? Like, isn't it just in that case based only on society? Or are we so enlightened in Western countries that, we separate everything, but this is also based on how society evolved? Or isn't it intrinsic to who we are?
I don't think any of the methods necessarily better than other. I think what I'm seeing is like if I need to put them in line and say like, oh, this is the best way to be with someone, and this is the worst way, I don't see that productive. I would say, as you mentioned, it depends on being honest, looking for someone that you can have some kind of friendship, and resolve conflicts. And once you have that, the method becomes irrelevant to me. I think one of the most important part of a long relationship, once you establish that I like this person, I want to be with this person, is how you resolve conflict, how you fight, how you argue. And I think that becomes so relevant in the long term because you're going to face these conflicts and you need to find a way to resolve it together. There is this scene from Matrix. I think it's the second one. I love that scene. And I really made me realize how important to know how someone fights with you and argues with you. So Neo is looking for the Oracle, and there is this program protecting it. And he goes to that program, say, look, I'm looking for the Oracle. And he says, who are you? And he replies, I'm Neo. And then he just attacks him. And then they fight for like a few minutes, right? And then he stops, like, okay. And then you can follow me now. And he goes like, why did you attack me? I needed to know. And he says, I told you that I'm Neo. And he says, you never know someone really if you don't fight with them. So, and I think in relationships, I think it's important too. Either you're a friend, or in a relationship, like how you argue and fight with someone, how often and what way, sometimes becomes really relevant, to be honest. Like it determines how long you're going to be with someone, aside of being honest and truthful and communicative, I think that's an aspect that people don't really focus on that much.
I think it's not a question about fighting, but I think it's a question
I think
about...
it's 100%. It's like how you resolve conflict.
Conflict. I agree.
Yeah.
Not fighting, because there's two different things.
That's a fucking action movie.
Yeah, I know. But it's definitely about conflict more than just fighting.
Yeah,
you don't have to fight in a relationship to understand who you are.
No. That's toxic. No,
fuck that, right? Yeah, it is. But conflict means like, I don't know, something that you're not used to and that triggers you to something, and the other person didn't do that intentionally, and then this is conflict, and this is where you can try to engage with that.
So guys, don't just fight, just the fight.
Fight like straight up in your face or start screaming at each other and be like, I like the way you scream. I like the way you slapped me, No, don't, please.
That's not what we're saying, no.
No. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And I think also it's a question about experience too. Because like, for me, as I say, one of my longest relationship, I never really fought. I never had like real conflict. And the way I envision any relationship were the same, basically. Because like the previous relationship that maybe we were younger and things like that, and you're discovering things and you're evolving slowly, and it's okay, sometimes to be triggered and things like that. But like in terms of the way people communicate, expect, and all that, I never felt like that until a few years ago, like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Which like for me, like I had a relationship which was not that long, but it changed everything in terms of how I consider engaging into a relationship with someone. And the
conflict resolution is something.
Yeah. And because like I never understand like the way we were together was great, but in terms of the person on the other side, actions and reaction were not normal for me, because I came from a background
which... That's not something you were used to too, as you
said. Exactly. And then I discovered that not everybody is on the same planet that I am.
There are some people actually think that's like how a relationship should be. Like maybe? I have a friend that she's like, well, it's normal to have fight. I'm like, what do you mean? Like every day? Well, she was like, yeah, I mean, a few times a week is fine. I'm like, what are you? Like, I can't, but some people, and I think sometimes also, not everybody, but I assume some people grow up in that family environment. Like their parents are fighting constantly and they normalize it. That's like, okay, I can't though. But it is, you need to go through that to learn how that works.
Exactly. And that's so interesting, like being 40, and you discover stuff that you thought that were like solid before, and you understood everything. And apparently, no, and you need to go through fucking life event or relationship or weird relationship in order to discover new stuff. And the relationship that I am right now, it's not the same, but it's definitely different from the longest relationship that I had.
Yeah.
Definitely. And since then, I understood so many different things in terms of the dynamism in the relationship and the fact that some people come up with their own luggages into the relationship, and it's difficult for them to trust or to be open in some way. And you need to establish boundaries and great communication in order to past conflict, because otherwise
And you also
like everything
learned a
is
lot
crumbled.
of things about yourself too. I think it's, each side sometimes realize certain luggages, as you said, that they carry, and knowing yourself is important if you are in a relationship that requires communication too.
I agree. And then there's this thing, where people are saying, well, in order to love someone, you need to love yourself first. And that's bullshit. It is great to understand yourself and understanding how you react in some event. Can you be triggered by this? Can you be triggered by that? But I don't think you need to love yourself in order to love other people, because most of my relationship that I had, like, first of all, that was never a question. And then you understand and you can learn so many things about yourself through the eyes of the other person too, in terms of that type of relationship. So I don't know, but I think a lot of people carry the trauma that they have from their previous bullshit past relationship or life, and then that can actually affect their pretty healthy relationship.
And it could be neurological too, like the being on the ASD spectrum or ADHD spectrum. Like we had these conversations that I learned a lot about myself through you. Mm-hmm. And still, I think society don't see those things as serious as that could be in a relationship. Because, for example, mm-hmm. if you have ADHD or some form of ADHD, that means that the way that you're dealing with tasks and what life throws at you, if you have anxiety, it's not always trauma driven. It's how you process information. It's about your neurology. And it's not only that you don't need to fix it, but it might be an easy fix. It may not be. There might not be a fix. And if you don't communicate that properly to the other person, and if they are not somewhat open to understand what an ADHD or ADHD or being on the autistic spectrum or other things, then they are going to associate that with your personality. And this is who you are. Arda, you don't care. Arda, you don't, do
you're
these
like
things. You don't
like
love
that.
me.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes really hard because you're trying and you know that you care. You know that you're doing your best, but it's never enough. And then your personality is the reason, Arda, this is who you are. This is your character. And I think society is still like a lot of friends of mine, a lot of people that I talk about these things. Good amount of people takes it seriously and sees that it can play an important role in a relationship or day-to-day life, even at work. But it's in progress. I don't think everybody recognizes those things.
No, it's definitely. And even in my relationship too, like I'm pretty open about my ADHD, and then and there's some things which I'm gonna act or react or do that might trigger my partner, and then that partner is gonna be triggered, and it's super difficult to tell that partner like, yeah, it's because the way I'm thinking like that. And it feels sometimes it's like an easy excuse, to be a dick or to do something, which I'm not intentionally doing something. And it's not just based on my background or, experience from before. It's just my brain works a little bit differently. And you need to justify that. And you need to go back to some communication, and you need to be grounded. As you were saying, you need to be, the person on the other side needs to be open, and you need to set up clear boundaries and rules again and be like, yeah, and we need to reaffirm basically stuff that you already know, because it feels so unstable sometimes that the person on the other side can just lose trust about how you act.
Yeah, 100%.
And
once that's gone,
it is.
not good.
It is crazy. Yeah. But there's this, and then there's like all those also other factors, based on trauma. Because like we're talking about
Yeah.
our stuff, but there's like, like I learned so much about that, which I wasn't ready to fucking learn about it. In terms of, avoidant personality, anxious, all those traits that are based on fear of abandonment and some psychological issues that goes with it. For example, there's like borderline personality disorder, BPD. Yeah. Those are also hyper triggering in terms of how you interact with the person that you're with. And those, like, you don't know what those are, that can fucking shatter the whole relationship. And when I was telling you, well, you need to love yourself before loving each other, I think it's, as I mentioned, you need to understand who you are, in order to understand another person that's going to be different from who you are. Because like when you're facing those different neurological, way of thinking and other people that comes up with trauma, in terms of their fear of abandonment because they had bad relationship, or there is like trauma in their childhood, and there's an accumulation of things in their life that can jeopardize a relationship with someone based on just a person can be just bad in front of them, or they're not secure, or they fear being abandoned, and then they fucking sabotage everything. Then those have real life consequences on your love life and your relationships and how you build that connection with someone. And
yeah, 100%.
And then that's the thing, and a lot of people forget about that and go back again to the start of the conversation about dating and all that. I don't think I met anyone that goes on an app, goes onto fucking dating and be like, well, I have this disorder. And what is yours? Okay, interesting. So we need to create a plan of action in order to communicate properly, in order to maybe see each other a second time and maybe fuck at the fucking date. No, fuck that shit. They're going to be like, yeah, I like Drake and the weekend, and I like go golfing on the weekend. And I'm like, what the fuck? Fuck off, like bullshit. First of all, you're unemployed, all right? and then, it's not even close to be real and be who you are and understanding who you are, and then be open to understand another person in front of you. Because it feels like it's so easy then to detach yourself from a person that not fitting your expectation. Then you're like, okay, next. Do you remember that?
And I think that's such a common thing with the internet era. Like, next, I can do better.
Yeah. Did you watch the MTV? You remember that TV show, MTV TV show called Next?
No.
Oh my God, that was crazy. Guys, check it out if you
don't
remember. So it's basically there's a guy or a girl and they're gonna be offered like 5 days in front of them. All right. So there's like these contestants coming in the bus and they're like, I'm going to try to get that girl, or, I'm going to prove love. Like they were starting with the fucking bullshit talk. And then they go out of the bus. Sometimes they're like seeing the person coming up. They're like, okay, next, and then they don't even talk with that person and it's done. And then they move to the second one, and then they go on a date and they do something throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, the contestant needs to choose if they want to be on a date with someone and go further with them. And then the kiss.
What is it called?
It's disgusting. Next, NXT.
Next.
Yeah, on MTV. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, it's a workout, right? Building a foundation for yourself, and even to create a relationship or to move into having someone in your life. Yeah. It's not easy, and we need to acknowledge that. And it's not because you're putting, rules or a set of steps that it's going to be more successful or anything, because it feels like there's this idea of success, when you're trying to find someone, and then we forget, no, it's just a human being. You're a human being and you're trying to create a connection between those two human beings. And to do that, it has to be in a way that, as we're saying, or how we're doing is being kind of a friendship, but another level. And if you just don't try to get too close to that person, or you don't want to listen too much to that person, or you don't want to be involved too much with that person, but you still want to pursue that idea, it's never going to work. And then you're going to be feeling lonely, and then you're going to cope with that loneliness with trying to meet other people, and then you're going to try to find someone else, and then you'll be like, okay, that's not the one, and I need to find the one. And then it's a never-ending circle. But you need to find yourself, understand yourself, and understand where other people come from. And then from there, you're going to have like a more authentic relationship and connection.
I agree. 100%. It's hard. And it's the best when you are open and authentic. And I don't think I don't know, I'm a little bit pessimistic about it. But you got to be optimistic, I guess,
Yeah.
It's like we didn't even tap into the dating experiences that we have, but like I always had really hard time to even open to someone, and like not in dating culture, going out, but it's just that first approach and being open. Like it stresses me so much and it gives so much anxiety to me to approach a woman. And I feel like I'm bothering them too at some point. Like, how am I going to approach to this person who I don't know? And it always really stressed me out. Maybe I have a trauma. I don't know.
You do have traumas, dude. Come on.
Probably.
But I think it's interesting too, because it's also like, for me, as I say, on dating apps, it never really worked out because I don't know how to engage. I don't know how to communicate directly and texting and things like that. So that means already those process, you already exclude people, by creating those expectations and those set of rules, you exclude people right from the beginning. And even you, when you're saying like, I don't know how to approach someone, because it feels like
I have
that the person, you have expectations, but that the person might have expectations too.
Yeah. And I'm very self-conscious and my brain overthinks about it. And I'm not in the present moment when that's happening. So I'm in my mind, like I can't get out of it. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. And for me, I'm not in that state of mind when I'm finding someone. It's just like, it just happens.
Yeah.
And I know it's weird to say that like that because it feels so fucking easy, but it feels like there's no intent each time, that I got into relationship in general, but even to engage in terms of getting close with someone, like it's never an intent. I'm not like, I want to get that person, or I'm really intrigued by that person. I want to be that with that person. It's like,
but it has to happen at some point.
Yeah, but I don't know. It feels
not
fucking
at the
natural.
very beginning. Maybe you don't really think about that much.
But it doesn't feel. Yeah, I don't think that much. I'm not like I want that person. No, just like it's there. Sometimes
you don't think like, oh, she's cute and I like her.
Yes, I'm not saying no to that, but I'm saying like, but you're saying like in terms of expectation. Like sure, I can be attracted by someone because we talked and that person. I feel. Attracted by that person. But the end goal is not even there. It's like, if there is not that connection with that person anyway, so then I don't care if that's happening or not happening. If it's
I think I self-sabotage.
Maybe.
On those moments.
But then I'm not creating those process or steps being like, okay, so I need to do this in order to do that, in order to meet that person, in order to do this and this and that. No, not really. And even if I was doing this, I know it might not work at all. So at the end of the day, why bother to think it too much? It's like things happens or they don't happen.
Yeah, I don't know. It's also really, really bothers me. And it's like, I still don't understand that, we talked about the expectations in a relationship and society and blah, blah. But I don't understand why man has to ask women out. And I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. It's just, I hope one day that women also feel comfortable, because I know from women's side there are a lot of things going on to approach a man and talk with them and ask them out. But I wish it would be a thing that men and women do it, naturally. That role, yeah.
I think it's a question about the same authenticity. Like for me, that never happened. Like I never been the one just starting to engage with the woman. It
always to women approach you?
I'm not saying yes, but it never felt on the other end like I was the one making a move. So I had like multiple version of it. Like, and maybe that's why I'm saying it's cultural too, because like it feels maybe in France, women are more inclined to be making a move or something like that regarding the US.
Like on the other side of the coin, no woman ever asked me out.
Well, yeah, but for me, yes, it did actually. Yeah. And even long relationship and even small relationships. And that's the thing. It's the same. Intention. Is there an intention? What is the goal? What is the fucking point and all that? If you're just authentic on both sides and you don't separate those genders, being like, okay, a gay person needs to act like that in order to be with another gay person. A girl needs to act like that in order to get a guy. And a guy needs to do this like this in order to get a girl. And fuck that. Fuck those fucking bullshit,
that. Yeah, I get it.
Just engage with a fucking human, You're just a human, so I'm a human. What's up? And then it shouldn't be,
That's a good mindset. I like that.
It shouldn't be based on any preconception of things. Because at one point you just start just loving the idea more than the person.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good way to end that episode. That would be great if people could send us messages and tell us about how they perceive their dating life or relationships. You can comment on that audio on Spotify or comment on YouTube, or you can send us a message on Instagram or Threads, everywhere at yesandnopodcast. And we'll see you in the next episode. I was your host, Matt.
And this is your host, Arda.
See you next time. See you in the next episode. Bye.
See you next time. Bye.